everybody, it's Bishop Megan Rahr, and today we are having a conversation about Lutheran social services in Northern California, and I have two guests with me. Guests, would you be willing to introduce yourselves?
Hi, everybody. I'm Carol Roberts. I'm the CEO of Lutheran Social Services. She, her, hers.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jason Sitar. I'm a program manager with Lutheran Social Services. Pronouns are he, him, his.
Thank you all for joining us. I'm so excited to have you guys here today. What are some of the intersections that you all embody, just so that some folk can get to know you a little bit better?
Well, thanks, Bishop, and the SYNOD and the congregations and individuals who have supported Lutheran Social Services and continue to support us. When I think about the answer to that question, I was raised in a nice house in Southern California with all the privileges that come with it. But what's interesting is that my parents were Kennedy Democrats, and they were absolutely adamant about teaching me social justice and the principles. I mean, my father volunteered, my mother volunteered, and so I grew up with a very strong sense of what I had versus what others may not have. And went to a really liberal arts college in Southern California, and have worked actually in nonprofits my entire career, except for a very unfortunate stint in county government, which led me right back to nonprofits. So throughout the years, I've worked with women and children and now homeless individuals. And it really is my passion. And Lutheran Social Services, when I was called to come to Lutheran Social Services, it has been the best experience of my entire life. I love this position, and this agency is doing such remarkable work. And when I say the agency, it's not me. I mean, I did the right thing and hired two really amazing deputy directors and then stepped back. I have a staff here that is dedicated beyond any expectation and does amazing work walking hand in hand with the individuals that we serve.
I think for myself, to answer the question of sexuality, I think pondering it, I come from a very stable home, a loving family. I'm of mixed ancestry, and I think that plays an important role in the way I walk the earth and see things and navigate. My mother's side is of Filipino descent. My grandparents came to this country and worked very hard. My grandfather in the fields, so I was able to see the hard work that he went through, and kind of navigating the lives of my mother and my aunts and uncles. And I think something that comes from that is the compassion for others and the ability to serve people, which leads me to our position and what I do with LSS. I'm very passionate about helping individuals, and whether that be with their goals or helping them navigate through barriers. And I'm very proud to be working with LSS of Northern California, and Carol's absolutely correct. We have a tremendous staff that daily surprises me, inspires me, and helps me to continue doing what we do.
Well, I was wondering, how do you think the intersections that you embody in this world shape your faith, whether it's, kind of traditional faith like the Lutheran Church, or kind of faith in humanity, faith that things can get better? What do you think?
Well, I certainly have faith in humanity. And I do believe that as you said, things can get better. But when I look at how I was raised, and it was very traditional, and I still carry a lot of that traditional faith forward into my work, I have to say. But people really can change, and people can, if you walk with them and understand who they are and walk in their shoes, you can really see how an individual's particular talents and gifts can help not only you as a person, but help them succeed as well. I guess I'm saying this really poorly.
I think for myself, I was raised in a family that was very traditional in a Catholic sense, but my home, my parents' home, gave me a little bit of freedom, but we had that backbone of faith. And I think for me, yes, there's a spirituality that I'm very tied to, and I think that a spirituality, and I do think that humanity, working with individuals, and that links to the direct work. And I think that change can be seen. I see it on a daily basis, and it is what keeps me going. And it's about, I hate to say this because Carol probably always thinks I said it, but it's always about planting these seeds. And while we're doing the work we do, we have to water those seeds with individuals. So it's just this daily thing. And I've been with the agency for 13 years, and I've seen them grow. Oftentimes we don't get to see that, but it's very important. So the ability to plant seeds, the ability to help people realize what they're capable of and what they want to do, and to help support them. And I think that's what's important and leads me to this work.
Yeah, you said it better than I did.
Well, the good news is that faith isn't a contest. We can all have our faith. I know for me, I've been a Lutheran all my life, and growing up in South Dakota, when my parents were divorced, Lutheran Social Services was a place where we were able to get care and comfort for our family, to get connected to kind of food resources, and to get connected to therapy support and things like that kind of provided basic care for us. For those who maybe haven't known what Lutheran Social Services is, or why it's a part of what Lutherans are up to, would you be willing to explain at least what we're up to in this part of the world? Because there's lots of different Lutheran social services around the United States. What do we do in our area?
Well, in our area, we provide services to the homeless. We play a role, a very big role actually, in helping to end homelessness in Northern California. Right now, we're keeping more than 3,600 individuals and families housed every day. So these are 3,600 people who aren't sleeping in cars or not on the street. They have a pillow to lay their head on and a bed to sleep in. And that to me is the most important part of our social ministry. We have a service region, by the way, that stretches from Monterey County all the way to the Oregon border. And right now we're providing services in 8 counties. We're in Contra Costa, Sacramento, San Francisco, San Joaquin, Shasta, Solano, Stanislaus, and Yolo. And we serve people from all ages and stages of life. So we have programs for chronically homeless adults, former foster youth, transition age youth who are homeless, and they're between the ages of 18 to 24. We have programs for families and also for seniors. So we go from birth And I think our oldest client is 102. We have 36 different programs across these counties, and it is unfortunate, but it's true, because I would like to be out of business, but we are growing because the need for services for the homeless individuals throughout Northern California is growing.
And I know from my conversations with folk all across our synod, both in California and in Nevada, that homelessness is growing, is something that is feeling more and more urgent for our congregations to respond to. And it feels like some of the dynamics of homelessness have changed, and some of them are woefully the same dynamics that have been with us maybe since the beginning of the history of our country. And I'm wondering if there are any trends in homelessness or things you're noticing about kind of the current state of homelessness that you could share with us just from your observations.
Well, I think for myself, I'd like to add, I work primarily with transitional age youth, age 18 to 24. We have about 12 different programs in the Sacramento area of various designs. But I think when we're talking about trends, I think one of the interesting things that we're seeing now and that we're providing services to is our college students. So we have college initiative programs. We're working with the junior colleges. We're working with the Cal State University, the University of Davis, as well as 2 other junior colleges. And what we're seeing is the increase of homeless college students. So we're working to be able to provide them housing opportunities, to get them stabilized and to help them achieve their goal of graduation from college. We've had 3 individuals from our UC graduate within our first cohort of students. So I think that we're seeing a different face to the label of homelessness, and we're seeing an increase in numbers.
Yes. Yes, and across California, we're seeing a different face of homelessness. And part of that is because there's so much less safety net services. And the safety net services haven't kept up with the cost of living. So more and more people are one paycheck or one disaster, one personal disaster like injury or illness away from becoming homeless. And that, I think, is in what the most economically successful country in the world, one of the saddest things to watch, because homeless used to be not confined, but more prevalent in San Diego and Los Angeles and San Francisco and Sacramento. And now we're seeing tent cities everywhere and in every community, from Truckee to Turlock to wherever. Homelessness is visible and it's real. And, I think we need to start addressing some public policy to deal with it. And we are. I mean, Gavin Newsom is certainly directing dollars in the right way to help.
I wonder, having just kind of visited some of the spaces that were affected by wildfire and seeing how many people are still living in transitory housing, which many of the types of housing, for those who don't know, sometimes the federal government describes what is actual housing versus homelessness based on if you have access to your own kitchen and your own bathroom. And so some of the spaces kind of met that requirement with RVs, but other places seem like they were just sort of barely making that requirement, if at all. That there have been people who, since the Paradise Fire 3 years ago, are still living in kind of transitory spaces and waiting for relief. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts about how wildfires created kind of a unique homeless situation for us in this area.
Well, they certainly exacerbated it in so many different ways. We're talking about campfire survivors who are still living in tents and parks in Chico. They've been there since the fire, and now that the city government is destroying the camps, they're just moving from place to place. So I drive down Highway 99, and there are people camped on the side of the freeway with cars and tents. But the wildfires tend to take place in rural areas and outlying areas, right, where there isn't a lot of established city housing. And so that's where people who are housing insecure and can't afford much live. The Paradise was home to a lot of low-income individuals who were barely housed. And the same thing is true with Berry Creek, and the same thing is true with the Dixie Fire. And so those individuals don't have the resources to come into a place like Chico or Sacramento and rent an apartment because they just lost their job because the place of employment burned down. So not only are we creating a whole new class of homelessness, which are fire survivors, but those that can't afford to buy a new home or rent an apartment or otherwise take care of themselves are taking the very minimal available housing away from those who were instably housed in the first place. So it's this cascading effect. And it shows in these communities where homelessness wasn't as visible before the fires. You know, you look at Plumas County where the Dixie Fire has destroyed so much, and that's going to be a very difficult thing to rebuild.
Well, we have our first question to lift up. This might be for you, Jason. It's folk wondering if there are ways that they can get involved in the college initiatives that you spoke about.
Yeah, I believe just initially, I believe that like getting involved, donations are very important and help us to do our work daily and be creative in ways to support individuals. And I'd be happy to also take emails and help link people to ways that we can see how we can support these college initiative programs.
And there are simple ways to support them. We're doing a Halloween and a Christmas card drive where we're asking people to make cards for our participants. And that's a very simple and easy way to get involved. We're doing gift drives of gifts for adults and gifts for children, including our college youth. Our development director is looking for hand knitted or crocheted scarves, hats, and gloves for men and women. And following us on social media is another way to get involved. You'll learn a lot about the agency. So there are ways to, because volunteering is so difficult in this surge, in this COVID surge. So there are ways to get involved without having to be face-to-face with the youth.
I wonder, since you've worked with the youth for quite some time now, if there are any kind of like particular routes that you've seen that are ways in which have kind of made some youth vulnerable, or if there are any sort of ways that you can describe some of what kinds of youth they are and
Sure.
and what some of their needs are.
Sure. We receive referrals from various sources, but if I had to discuss a lot of the youth that we're seeing, we're seeing youth who come from broken households that don't have the traditional family nucleus and support that others might see. So we have a lot coming from extended foster care. We have a lot coming from from directly from the streets. I think one of the things is that for myself and our staff is we become the mentor. So when individuals enter into our programming, we are oftentimes their emergency contact. So they don't have other individuals to rely on. And I think that's what some people might misunderstand when you're linked to housing. There's all these other things that have been unaddressed, and there's reasons that got you to the point of being housing insecure and homeless. And once we're able to house these individuals, um, oftentimes that's when we see that we can help stabilize and move forward and provide supports to those barriers. Um, I think that these individuals that we're working with, I'm going to be honest, they've had a very traumatic upbringing, and there's a lot of stress and trauma that has been not resolved or worked on for years. So what we're doing is we're trying to help develop rapport and help get them links to services that can help. Because one of the things that I feel is true is that when you're in survival, when you're living on the streets, it's hard to dream. That's a fantasy. So oftentimes we're working with these youth to help them see the worth and the value that they already hold, and it's just our work is helping them to unpolish that. I think one story I have is about a youth that I worked with many years ago, extended foster youth with disabilities. And this, I believe people wrote this individual off, and Carol will know who I'm talking about, as this youth was going to be in programming for the remainder of their life. A long story short on that is we've worked with this individual and vocational opportunities that were very safe. There was a lot of mental health, so it'd be processing for an hour after a work shift on how to make this individual employable. And this individual linked with our adult programming and moved actually to Yosemite. Our vocational staff got him a job in Yosemite, which they turned into a regular position. It was temporary, and they got hired on. The goal of this individual at the time I met them was to have a driver's license. This individual not only got a driver's license, but went on to getting a paid position in Mammoth, where they currently live in their own apartment. Not only do they have their driver's license, they came back to Sacramento to show us their new car. So it's about these individuals, even though they've had a traumatic experience, it doesn't define who they are or what they can do.
You would be amazed at the transformation with this young man. When I first met him, he was very halting and, insecure and like this. And I happened to be in one of the offices and was introduced as the CEO, and he could hardly talk. And over the next 3 or 4 years, he just blossomed. I've never, and we all thought he was going to be staying in supportive housing forever. We just were sure of it. If all of us would have predicted, that would have been in the yearbook. And when he got that internship in Yosemite, that was it. He was off and running.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Bishop, can I also share one more story? And it's about these seeds and what we see is capable with these programs. We have another youth who went through programming, and we're actually looking for individuals for placement for jobs. So this individual, who was a former participant, applied for our job. So they went through the first phase of the interview, and when they were in programming, there was a lot of issues, and this individual was cycling through addiction and trying to work through that, was a parent. Well, they came back through the first round of interviews. and I had reservations because of the past. But the person that presented themselves in that interview, I could not have been more proud of the work we've done. Um, I'm happy to say that that individual has their second interview tomorrow, and I'm hoping that I can share with you that um, they might have an opportunity. But just to see the transformation of where this individual was and their dedication and to where they want to go to be a productive member and parent is amazing.
That's great, Jason. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. And I think that's part of like what I want to lift up, because I've in my tour so far, I've mostly visited the San Francisco offices of LSS and kind of program sites. And it was such a delight and a marvel to see kind of the ways that LSS has been walking with people through their homelessness or through their journey towards homefulness, maybe. Because like the process that LSS is using is not one that's sort of sustaining homelessness or making it more comfortable. It really is getting people into housing and supporting them once they're there to be able to stay inside. And so everything from the payee services that are offered in San Francisco that help folk ensure that the small amounts of government support they have go to their housing first and their food first, kind of before it goes to other needs, to supporting seniors who are having a hard time kind of transitioning into the kind of housing that they need, and kind of the language specific services that you have with Mosaic, with Spanish speaking folk and Mandarin speaking folk, and to be able to provide those life skills that maybe some people normally would learn in a family if their family was stable and supportive, but maybe through addiction or mental health or just the difficulties of poverty, weren't able to kind of learn those life skills to be able to have people who can support them at living with neighbors for the first time, or support them with accessing some of the resources like educational resources that are out there, or, you know, having a mentor who can help you be successful in your job is really kind of the component that makes it, I think, a very Lutheran process, that it's not like, here's the thing, go away, but it's more that it's a journey kind of through this thing that's hard together, because we have faith that being in community with each other makes a really big difference and helps a lot. And I was wondering, Carol, you were telling me a little bit earlier about kind of how some of this work of doing the supportive side of it, doing the accompanying side of helping people be housed, might be paving the way for other places. This gets called housing first in some areas, but I wonder if you could talk a little bit about why this modality of caring for those who are homeless and living in poverty is a modality that is kind of picking up speed in hopefully many more counties and spaces.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but what sets LSS apart, I think, from other service providers that do similar services is really the attention to that philosophy of meeting somebody where they are and following them or walking with them. These are participants. They are, in many, many cases, wonderful, talented, interesting individuals who have their own story to tell. And when we house them and we talk with them about where they want to go and where they want to be, it allows us to actually provide the supports and link them with the services that will help them get there. Jason's youth work on a life plan once they get into housing, where it covers all of the dimensions of their lives, whether it's work or where they want to live or whether or not they want a family, what kind of hobbies they want to do. And I think that following along those life plans, which are living documents, mirrors what we do in the adult programs with the youth. But, you know, Jason could sit here all afternoon and tell you story after story of how that philosophy has given us so many successful graduates. And I can tell you story after story of adults who have done the same thing. And that's the difference with LSS, I think. I don't know, there's a cooking term that we sometimes use called umami, which is just that extra flavor of that makes the difference.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about and kind of hoping you would speak about a little bit, because
Okay.
I think, you know, for me, it's a part of the Lutheran charism, this idea that like nobody can be so bad that we give up on them. And I think that there are other faith communities that might have a bit more of a philosophy of, well, once you get your act together, we'll walk with you on the journey. And my sense of the way that Lutheran Social Services is doing work in the world is that it's a little bit more about presuming that everyone has innate worth and dignity, presuming that everyone has potential to take a journey, and when people want to take steps, that you're there to help them take the steps that they're able to. And then for folk who, for cognitive reasons or health reasons or age reasons or disability reasons, can't take steps, that additional support is provided to just help people live the fullest life that's possible for them at the stage that they're at. And I'm just so grateful that you all have that philosophy.
And you're exactly right. You said it very, very well.
I think absolutely. I agree. And I think that's the thing that makes it special. And I think that being able to meet them where they're at, when we help with programming, when it's something that they are driven to, if it's their actual goals, we can help them be successful. We can help them with that. It's when individuals, I can't identify success for someone. It requires me to sit down and really be present, and to really listen to what they're telling me they want. I've had a young man who I asked, "What do you want?" And he was exiting programming. And what he said to me, I remember, and this drives my work every day. He said, "I want to be respected. I want people to listen to me how you listen to me." And I think from that, I pulled that when I'm with individuals, when my team's with individuals, we have to be there, and we have to not go in with ideas about what we think success is, but to let them guide us to what success is for them.
Yes.
Well, and your Lutheran Social Services is a nonprofit. And that means lots of grant writing, lots of grant work, lots of fundraising, lots of trying to get the word out into the world to kind of sustain and equitably pay the folk who are doing this work. You were telling me earlier that some of the larger grants that you get when you're working with cities and with states and with government funding requires you to donate a certain amount from the outside community. Can you let people know about that so that they kind of know why their support is so helpful?
Right. So the HUD, Housing and Urban Development, who provides a lot of funding for supportive housing in the country, and certainly to us, requires that we match 20% of the grant. So if they give us $100,000, they want us to provide $20,000 worth of goods and services to match. And actually now it's 25% that we have to match. So they're paying for the majority of the services, but to take that extra step, to go that extra mile with individuals, we actually need to raise 25% of our contracts with HUD, which can be a challenge. But it's the amount that puts us into the category of an A+ agency versus we're just putting people in housing, thank you very much, and they're staying there, and we're checking on them every once in a while, because we are really we are really participating in their lives. We are walking with them in this journey. And those donations are what makes that difference. And thank you for all of you who are here, who are donating, because you're helping people. You're making a very real difference in helping individuals succeed. I can't put it any different than that. And because whatever individual needs is what they need, and it's unique to them. And we can talk about the things that we've done with donations and how they've made a difference. I was telling you a story earlier about how we bought a bicycle for a young woman who was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to walk to the bus stop to get on the bus to go to college. And the bus stop was just that far away that she had to get up at 4. And she was walking, Jason would remember how many miles, but it was significant. It was 5 or 6 miles. And we got her a bicycle so that she could ride her bike to the bus and get on the bus to go to school. And it made all the difference to her, right? She got a lot of extra sleep. But even more important, it helped her succeed in school. And she graduated from our program and from college, never having missed a day of school. And so this is what something as simple as the donation of the money to buy a bicycle will do.
I think another way that we used it creatively, and it was such a moving day for work, is that we were able to utilize some donations for individuals to go, this was pre-COVID, to go take pictures with Santa. So when we're talking about the individuals we're serving, we're also talking about the younger generation of children that are in those households too. And we sat there with a case manager and participants, and an individual said, "This is what it's like to come to the mall and take a picture with Santa." So these are experiences that are oftentimes taken for granted, but with us having the ability to do things like this, we're giving them experiences that they've never had and that they deserved, and we're able to work and support them in these ways. It was such my staff was in tears on that day.
You got me in tears.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you have a number of days where wonderful things like happen, and you get to kind of like take in the celebration of it all. But it's also been a real hard time, right? And doing this kind of work is hard on the soul. It's hard on the mind, and in part because there's never a finish line, or at least not one that we've crossed yet. And we're going to keep running until we get across it. But it can be really tough work. I'm wondering, how do y'all take care of yourselves and keep your spirit refreshed and renewed so that you can kind of get up each day and keep doing this tough work? Because I know a lot of our faith leaders are also striving to do the best they can with homelessness in their area. And any sort of ideas about stuff that you do might help them and encourage them to also take care too.
Jason?
On a personal note, I have outlets that help me maintain a positive mental health. I'm very big into exercise, working out. I have 2 young sons that keep me busy coaching athletics and sports. But I often say that to individuals who ask about my work, I feel like my team is my family in that sense, because like you say, you wouldn't believe some of the things we see, and the things that we see are very heavy daily, and for my staff, and I feel like LSS has been very supportive into making sure that we're taking care of ourselves and that we're taking care of each other. And I think if you come to our any one of our offices, actually, when you walk in there is a lightness, there's a greeting, there's a welcoming, because for me, when the staff come to our office, they're coming home. I know what they've seen. I know what they're dealing with. And when you come in, you're going to be welcomed, whether you're a participant, whether you're a guest, whether you're staff, and it should be a place for us to breathe and to make sure that we take care of each other. So I think taking care of each other is something that we try to strive to do every day, and it's so important in the work we do. And being given spaces to discuss that is very important for our staff being mentally well and prepared and able to give to others.
We stress self-care a lot, and we have leadership that is just extraordinary in making sure that the staff feel safe in the work that they're doing. And for that, I'm just eternally grateful. We've got amazing leadership.
Yeah, I was always really lucky because in the 12 years that I was working directly with the homeless and hungry in San Francisco, there were always ways that I could do smaller, tangible projects, and that would kind of get me through the longer time. So whether it was art projects or garden projects, or it was for me maybe the beauty of grant cycles, right? Like when a new area says, we'll give you a grant to do this thing, but only if you do this project. And it used to drive me nuts to have to reinvent a new project all the time to get new funding streams. But then I kind of grew to like it because having tangible ways to celebrate in the midst of things that feel ongoing and hard was a part of what kind of helped get me through in that. I'm noticing in some of those who are viewing, they didn't put up questions, but they put up a bunch of comments that you have a very lovely board of directors, many of whom are watching today. I'm wondering, can you speak a little bit about the kinds of like leaderships kind of behind the scenes that kind of helps LSS do its work? Like, do you have enough board of directors right now? Do you need some more volunteers to support you? I just wanted to lift up that they're watching, and
they are. I see in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, Vianne. Thank you, Scott. And I agree that Jason is a rock star. Absolutely. We're pan-Lutheran. So in our bylaws, we have, I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but I believe it's 8 slots for ELCA, which actually right now are full, and then 6 slots for the LCMS, and 6 slots that the board can appoint from the community at large. So right now, if there's anyone from the LCMS watching, we are looking for LCMS board members. We have a board that is really diverse in background and experience. And what I like about our board is that everybody seems to find their own personal niche. And so Scott, who is on this conversation, is a volunteer at our Mikasa program. And he's helped us in our administrative offices and does a lot of work from hanging doors to whatever else we need. And not all of our board members are that hands-on, but fortunately, we're blessed to have Scott from Mikasa. We have another board member who really enjoys doing advocacy, and I work with that individual to identify bills that are going through the state legislature that I'm following that I'd like to advocate for. We have another board member that's into volunteering, and so is helping us set up a volunteer bureau, and so on and so forth. But the board is very much a part of what makes LSS who we are today. And they are supportive and wonderful to me and to the staff. And, you know, we couldn't ask for more.
Well, I wonder if there are additional ways that you can think of for the congregations and individuals who are out there who are interested in providing more support for the homeless in their local communities, or connecting with you all? Do you have any ideas for those folk out there who are interested in ways that they can provide help?
Yes, and what I forgot to say about the board is that we also have board committees. So we have a finance committee, we have a fundraising committee called the development committee, and we're always looking for volunteers from the community to join those committees and participate in that way. So even if it's not on the board, it's a committee of the board. So if you feel like you want to get involved at more of a oversight and leadership level, then please give me a call and we'll talk about what committees you might be interested in joining. And Vianne's on here, so I know she would want me to mention the governance committee as well, because Vianne is the chair of the governance committee. In terms of ways to get involved, there really are a lot of ways to get involved that are on hold right now because of COVID. But we use a lot of Zoom. And if people are interested in sharing their life experience with the youth of doing a Zoom or making a YouTube video of how they've overcome difficulties and talking about their personal journey, we would love to have that. We have a Google Classroom where we put videos and modules and things for the youth. And that would be a wonderful way to get involved. Partnering with us through donations to take care of our vulnerable neighbors is another way. I mentioned the Halloween and the Christmas cards would be another way. Just talking to us about what you'd like to share or things that you think might be valuable to share with our clients. Talents that you have. We had an attorney a few years ago who was a real estate attorney, and he taught a debate class, and none of us thought that any of the youth would ever want to go to the debate class, but guess what? It was really popular. They loved it. So some of those things we can do via Zoom still. And so if you have a particular talent, we do cooking classes by Zoom now. So if you have a talent that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear about it and share it with our participants.
I think also to add that might be interesting is we have with our vocational program, we have it's in a Zoom format where we have guest speakers talk about career exploration and kind of the paths that they take. So it'd be really interesting to get some new individuals to come and speak about the journeys and career paths that they've seen.
Well, there's lots of support for you all popping up, folk. Thanking you for everything that you do. Co-workers, I have a suspicion this might be a co-worker in San Francisco.
I'm suspecting the same thing.
Yeah.
Thank you, JP.
JP.
Folk who are excited for your conversations. Here's a really great idea from Scott. A great help.
I'm supposed to say that too.
Yeah. Do you want to read it then?
A great help would be to invite LSS into your church to help members learn more about what LSS is and does for your community. And Scott is exactly right. And it's a talking point that I have right here in front of me, but it's at the bottom of the page, so I can't see it very well. Apologies. We would love to come and talk to you either during adult education or coffee hour, or if you're still Zooming in. We've made videos that congregations have shown during the service. So we'd love to spread the word about LSS.
And we also had a question about what kind of strategies do you use to house individuals when there isn't a lack of affordable housing in Sacramento? And just in case you don't know the answer, one was offered from the development director, Jerry. saying that the staff in Sacramento are ferocious in looking for vacancies, talking to landlords, making connections, and paying attention to potential sites in apartment buildings and houses. It's a challenge, but when folks are ready for housing, we do what we can.
Right. We have staff that, as Jerry said, are working daily. We do have a list of individuals who are looking to house, and the housing market is so competitive and it's very difficult. So we have a housing committee of staff that are working in the community, going property to property. So we are constantly looking for new sites to house individuals.
Yeah, the staff will walk the streets. They'll see an apartment complex and they'll go knock on the door.
Well, it sounds like it's a good plan. We also have confirmation that it worked for St. Mark's in Fairfield, that there was a visit and a couple of brief announcements, and they made Halloween cards for God's work, our hands. So have LSS over to your congregation. People like it. And maybe, is that how you end up being on the board, Vian? Or maybe it's chicken of the egg. You have people show up because you're on the board and getting all of that great work done.
No, Vianne heard a presentation at her congregation and volunteered to help be involved with the renovation of our site in San Francisco at 191. And from there, she stepped onto the board. And she was chair of the board for a couple of years, too. So she's a past chair.
And she served for 9 years.
Yes.
Wow.
It's great how we not only got to talk to Carol and Jason today, but we also got to talk to many of the LSS community from across the area. So I'm grateful that you have shown up in this place. I'm grateful for all the folk who have shown up online and all of the people who are willing and able to serve, especially in these kind of strange and unusual times. I'm wondering, is there anything we haven't talked about yet that you thought we should before we depart from folk?
Jason, do you have?
I don't have anything that I think we missed, but I will like to add this. While we spoke, we have just moved in 3 college students into Sac State housing, which is a really beautiful complex and really gives an individual the college experience. So they just moved in while we're doing this. So I think that's just an amazing thing that we're constantly, and this goes through our whole agency, is moving forward to house people, even though it's difficult. And I just like to thank you, Bishop, Megan, and the SYNOD for this opportunity.
Yes.
And having us here, and for the people who are participating and viewing and supporting us. We truly appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely, and we'll keep praying for you all. We'll pray for all of those who are without housing tonight. We'll pray for those who are caring for the wildfires, that they stay as small as possible. We'll pray for all of the vicarious trauma that you all might see and carry in your hearts, and for great abundance, enough abundance to end homelessness forever, right? And enough abundance that the work that you do caring for the homeless and hungry doesn't have to compete with other groups who also need care, or other groups that might be resettling into our areas, that we remember there's enough abundance for everyone. And I'm just so grateful for all of the work that you all do, and for all the ways that you do it on our behalf, particularly by having even just the word Lutheran out there while doing such wonderful work in the world. Thank you so much for everything that you all are up to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And if you want to be in touch or learn more about Lutheran Social Services, you can hop on their webpage. The links are below, and so is the link to donate.